We are back on Inside Politics. Our guest today, Nashville State Senator Jeff Yarbro and Tennessean reporter Dave Boucher. We've been talking mostly about corrections issues in our first two segments. In this last segment, we'll talk about a few of the other things that are likely to be coming up when lawmakers come back in January. Jeff, the leader in the Senate, Lieutenant Governor Ron Ramsey, sent out a Facebook posting right after the tragic shootings in Oregon at the school, who basically said he thought the way to deal with this was for all the Christians in the state to arm themselves, because he thought these mass shootings were all aimed primarily at Christians. Do you see this as a move that perhaps the legislature will consider a much broader open carry bill with basically guns everywhere in the next segment?
Well, I hope not, and I think that's clearly not the right response here. We have seen a rise in shootings, and we do need to make sure that we're actually trying to do something to prevent those things, not to just arm the citizens.
They may also say, let's let the college and university professors be armed in the classroom.
I think you'll see a lot of legislation this year on all sides trying to address
it wouldn't be the legislature if we didn't have gun bills to debate.
Well, that would be true.
What about Insure Tennessee, Dave? Is that going to come back up again this year? Now, the House Speaker said that she wants to see the House revisit it. Now, she didn't give a lot of ground rules for exactly how to do that, but
sure.
that was it's always been a dead issue in the House. It's already been killed twice in the Senate. Is it going anywhere?
It could come up for discussion. There hasn't appeared to be too much of a big push from the governor to bring it back up. When we've asked him about it, he said he thinks it would take some sort of substantial change from lawmakers for him to really move forward, and so far he hasn't heard that. As you've noted, Lieutenant Governor Ron Ramsey has seemed to indicate that he wants to wait until there's a new president, possibly a Republican president, before moving forward.
Jeff, you tried to bring the bill back last year. Are you going to try again in 2016?
Well, I think we definitely have to revisit this in 2016. We haven't solved this problem in Tennessee. We're seeing our uninsured rates stay higher than most places in the country. And starting this year, we're going to start seeing the amount of money that we receive for Medicaid start going down and hospitals becoming placed in danger.
There's also pending legislation coming out of the Supreme Court ruling earlier this year that legalized same-sex marriage. They want to go back to make sure in Tennessee it's only one man, one woman marriage. The Republicans have huge majorities, and it's their base that's concerned. Isn't this likely to pass in both houses?
Well, regardless how large their majority is, it's not big enough to overturn the Constitution, and we can overturn a Supreme Court precedent here in Tennessee. So I don't think that that's going to go very far in terms of legal effect. But I think in an election year, I think what we have to worry about is just watching, the legislature has a tendency to be like kids in a soccer game, just sort of following whatever hot button ball around the course.
Dave, another hot button issue is likely to be the religion in schools in terms of what they're going to allow people to be taught. Right now there's a concern about the 7th grade curriculum, including what's being taught right now about Islam. It appears there's an effort to say you can't teach anything about that till high school, but the bill seems to be so broad it might also include all religions, and the governor said you might not be able to teach about the Pilgrims.
Well, and it comes down to this concept of what is religious doctrine, and the lawmaker who's introduced this, Representative Butt, believes that there should be able to be a clear line between mentioning a religion and teaching religious doctrine. And while that might be clear to her, I'm not sure that that's clear to anybody else. And it's certainly not clear in the bill what that line is. And as you noted from the governor, he's noted that it's, if you can't teach religious doctrine as fact, as something that has actually happened, that could derail all many different aspects of education.
Jeff, the governor's also talked about the need to increase the gas tax or do something about transportation. It doesn't seem to be getting much traction in either party anywhere on the Hill. And then there's also this big surplus sitting up there. Are you going to have a big food fight over what to do with the state surplus coming in?
Well, I think the big question, yes, we're going to have a big fight about what to do with the surplus, and we have. The problem is that the surplus in a one-time doesn't solve the problems that we have ongoing. We have problems with underfunding in education, need to do something with infrastructure, need to do something with Medicaid, and the one-time surplus money isn't going to address those things. It'll just be a Band-Aid.
Dave, in the past, sometimes the legislature has allowed the governor to have some flexibility about that. My impression is this time the Republicans want to have in the legislature a more direct control over exactly where that surplus is going to be spent.
I think it's fair to say that the Republicans in the legislature want to have more direct control, period. And so when you're talking about $500 million, absolutely, the Republicans want to have a bigger say, and I think the Democrats do too, about where that's going to go. So I agree there's going to be a fight over it. There's many different projects that money could go toward, and we'll have to see where the governor, particularly points it.
Jeff, it's your second year. Do you feel a little bit more experienced and confident going in? That first year, I guess, was a little bit overwhelming to go from the first time into an elected office.
It's always sort of drinking from the fire hose in the first year. Certainly interested in to see if we can actually look at some of the real priorities facing the state this year.
State Senator Jeff Yarbro, thank you for joining us. Dave Boucher, thank you for joining us as well. I suspect it's going to be a very interesting time when we get to January. And, of course, these prison issues, which were not much at all in the news, are on the table for the legislature. Maybe they're in a way that were not there at all coming last year.
Sure.
And thank you for joining us on Inside Politics. Hope you can be back here again for a future show. If you can't get enough politics in the meantime, go to the News Channel 5 website. You'll find my Capitol View commentary there. There's a new commentary posted every Friday afternoon. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see you back here next time. Goodbye.